We're live from New Delhi. You're watching the India News Hour, India's voice to the world. Our Lipakshi Khurana coming up in the next hour. Campaigning for the sixth phase of India's general elections to rest today. Fate of 889 candidates contesting across 8 states and UTs to be locked on May 25th. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi to be laid to rest on Thursday. World leaders expressed their condolences. Israel condemns European nations' Palestinian state recognition. Netanyahu says the move would reward terror. US calls for two-state solution through direct talks. Facing voters for the first time as Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak calls surprise UK election on the 4th of July, vows to deliver a secure future. And climate change fueling a surge in extreme weather events across the planet. Heat waves plummeting across Asia, including North India. Floods in Serbia and Brazil affecting lives. And the latest in the world's largest democratic election in India. Well, election campaigning for the sixth phase of India's general elections to conclude in the evening today. The sixth phase polling is all set to take place on the 25th of May in 57 constituencies. The sixth phase will cover 8 states and union territories. In this phase, a total of 889 candidates are in fray. In this phase, polling will also be conducted in Jammu and Kashmir's Anantnag-Rajouri Lok Sabha constituency. Last month, the Election Commission of India revised the polling date in the Anantnag-Rajouri Lok Sabha seat from the 7th of May to 25th of May due to logistical, communication and natural barriers related to connectivity. The counting of votes for all polls will be done on the 4th of June. And campaigning for the sixth phase of general elections to conclude today, political parties get up to woo voters in their respective favours. Bharatiya Janata Party leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Haryana, where he will be holding rally in Mahendragarh. Later in the day, Prime Minister to hold public meeting in Patiala district of Punjab. Also, senior BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah to visit Uttar Pradesh today, where he will be holding rally in Ambedkar Nagar district of the state. In a bid to woo voters, BJP National President JP Nadda to visit Odisha and hold public meetings in Mayurbhanj, Bhadrak, Jajpur and Jagatsinghpur district of the state. And in order to garner support in party's favour, opposition also holding rallies across the states. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi to hold public rally at northeast Delhi in support of Indie bloc candidate Kanhaiya Kumar. Later in the day, Rahul Gandhi will also campaign for party candidate Udit Raj in northwest Delhi. Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi to hold roadshow in Sirsa district in the western region of the Indian state of Haryana. Samajwadi Party Supremo Akhilesh Yadav to hold several rallies in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Bahujan Samaj Party Chief Mayawati to hold rallies in Mirzapur district of Uttar Pradesh and Buxar of Bihar. And for more on elections, we have Amritpal Singh joining us from Yamunanagar in Haryana and Vishal Baristo from Midnapur in West Bengal. Well, good morning to both of you. Amrit, my first question to you. Campaigning for the phase 6 of the Lok Sabha polls will end today evening. All 7 Lok Sabha seats in Delhi and all 10 in Haryana will be going to polls in the 6th phase on the 25th of May. Prime Minister Modi also will be in Haryana and Punjab today, while Rahul Gandhi will be in Delhi. Can you give us an overall of the last-minute attempt by parties to entice the voters?
You're right, Lipakshi, that the campaigning for the sixth phase comes to an end this evening at 6 p.m. Prime Minister in the afternoon is holding a rally in Haryana in Mahendragarh. Rahul Gandhi was here yesterday. He held different rallies in Panchkula, in Sonipat, in Charkhi Dadri. So political parties, including candidates on all the 10 seats of the 10 Lok Sabha seats of Haryana, are making the last minute effort to reach out to the voter and win them over to their side by promising whatever they are taking on their opponents. So the heat and the dust of the politics in this season, in election season, is at its zenith, and before the drum beats stop and polls go into the silent mode before the Saturday polls. So different leaders are, both national leaders are trying to woo voters. As you said, Rahul Gandhi is going to address rallies in Delhi, and the candidates are also going out door to door, holding road shows, doing mass contact programs, doing going out, holding rallies to reach out to their electorate. Lipakshi.
All right. Vishal, you are in Midnapur right now, one of the 42 constituencies in West Bengal. It is set to go to polls also on the 25th of May. It is recognized as Bengal's tribal belt consisting of 5 districts. So what are the major issues there? And as campaigning will end today evening, what all is lined up?
Well, a very good morning to you, Lipakshi. Yes, indeed, 8 seats from Bengal would go to polls in the 6th phase, and that includes Purulia, Jhargram and Medinapur, where I am reporting from. And let me tell you that it is a hard-fought battle between the Trinamool Congress and the BJP. BJP last time scored 18 seats out of 42, so BJP is trying very hard to improve its tally, and TMC also trying to maintain its position because TMC is very strong here. It has been in power for the last one decade, and Mamata Banerjee wants to hold a forte. And BJP has been doing rallies. All the star campaigners have been visiting. In fact, yesterday also, the party president JP Nadda was here in Bengal, and also Amit Shah did a road show. Earlier, Prime Minister also held a rally in Jhargram. So it is going to be an interesting contest. Yes, the tribal belt, the issues are upliftment of poverty. Even Jhargram is also a tribal area where Prime Minister held a rally. From there, Pranat Tudu is taking on TMC's Sonamoni Murmu. And here in Midnapur, if we talk about the high voltage battle, it is between Agni Mitra Paul, who is a fashion designer in the film industry, against TMC's June Alia. June Alia is a sitting MLA in the State Assembly of West Bengal. But it is quite a backward area as far as development is concerned in West Bengal. So I've been talking to the people. I've also spoken to a senior journalist who have been reporting elections for a very long time, and he says that women empowerment and eradication of poverty are the main issues as far as this area is concerned. Lipakshi.
All right. Thank you so much, Amrita and Vishal, for joining us and giving us that update. And now let's have a look at the electoral battle for Azamgarh in Uttar Pradesh. DD India's correspondent Deepika Mehta gives us a detailed report.
On the coming 25th of May, the voters of Azamgarh have to really make a very tough decision. There are interesting candidates on this seat. From BJP, you have Dinesh Lal Yadav, who's also known as Nirua, the famous celebrity. While on the other hand, you have Dharmendra Yadav from Samajwadi Party, who's also a very close aide of Akhilesh Yadav. Now, the question here is the question of prestige over this particular seat of Azamgarh. While there are political banters which are continuously ongoing between both the parties, the BJP as well as the SP, it remains to be seen that who win the hearts of the voters coming the 25th of May.
The political fight is getting hotter in Azamgarh. Back-to-back rallies, late-night campaigning with a touch of music to elaborate the festivity of democracy is a common scene here. The UP belt voters are a huge fan of Niraua, aka Dinesh Lal Yadav, who's candidate from BJP here. He may have lost 2019 Lok Sabha elections, but he is more confident this time.
आजमगढ़ में अब भगोड़े नेता लोगों के लिए जगह नहीं है और वो दोनों भाई भगोड़े हैं। 19 में जीते तो अखिलेश यादव जी भाग गए, 22 में हारे तो धर्मेंद्र भाग गए और ये लोग कभी आजमगढ़ दिखाई दिए नहीं। तो आजमगढ़ की जनता को ऐसे भगोड़ों पे भरोसा नहीं है। आजमगढ़ में जब कोई आदमी हारने के बाद भी रह रहा था और जीतने के बाद भी रहा तो ही इनको भरोसा हुआ कि ये अब हमको आदमी मिला है जो यहाँ रह के काम कर रहा है। तो इसलिए आजमगढ़ की जनता खुद ही कह रही है कि हम लोग आपको इस बार और बड़े अंतर से जिताएंगे।
While BJP's Nirawa believes that SP candidate Dharmendra is a fugitive, on the other hand, Dharmendra Yadav, a seasoned MP from Azamgarh, says that BJP's candidate Dinesh is an accidental MP.
उनको देख लिया लोगों ने, एक्सीडेंटल एमपी हैं, देख लिया लोगों ने, नाप लिया आजमगढ़ के लोगों ने, अब मौका नहीं मिलेगा दोबारा।
Well, the political banters continue as the campaigning picks up pace, but what is even more interesting is to see how the political rallies are entertaining everyone. A class 5 student is leaving no stone unturned to use this platform as his singing podium, appealing all the voters.
Political banters continue, but the festival of democracy is also continuing unabatedly. You can see behind me the large number of people, the voters of respective parties have come here to celebrate. Whatever the soaring temperature is, the excitement is at its maximum level, is at its peak. So what happens on the 25th of May? That the voters will decide. But right now, the festival of democracy across India and especially in Azamgarh is at its peak. With camera person Sanjeev, this is Deepika reporting from Azamgarh for DD India.
Well, 2014 was a landmark year for Tibetans born in India. That year, they got voting rights in the country. As Delhi prepares to go to polls on Saturday, DD India's Anu Kaushik spoke with Tibetans living in the city to get a grasp of their issues and expectations in the 2024 general elections. Take a look.
This is Majnu Ka Tila, or the new Arunanagar colony in the Indian capital of New Delhi. It comes under the Chandni Chowk Lok Sabha constituency. The area, which houses a Tibetan refugee settlement, has a population of over 3,000. Its residents first came to India in the late 1950s after the Chinese invasion of Tibet. But it was only in 2014 that Tibetans got voting rights in India. Notwithstanding the small size of their electorate, locals here are vocal about their expectations from leaders in the 2024 general elections. Some want the incumbent Narendra Modi-led government to return to power owing to its policies for development.
मोदी जी दोबारा बनेंगे तो भारत का तरक्की जरूर होगा लग रहा है।
बीजेपी का जो सरकार है आउटर लेयर से देखो एज ए लाइक भारत देश के मुकाबला काफ़ी इंडिया आगे आ चुका है।
While others want their political representatives to address civic issues.
यमुना की साइड से जो रोड दिखते हैं, रोड में थोड़ा सा बना कच्चा वच्चा ऐसे पूरी तरह से बना नहीं है, उसको हम बनाने के अनुरोध कर रहे हैं.
For women in this colony, issues like safety and government schemes have gained prominence.
दिल्ली में बचपन से बैठे यहाँ पे थोड़ी सेफ्टी नहीं है. ऐसे यंग लड़के लोग बेले लोग ऐसे है, सेफ्टी ऐसे नहीं है, ये थोड़ा सही करो.
मोदी जी तो अच्छा है, सब कुछ जो करता है ना, सब हर चीज़ पहन करता है. अभी गैस भी कम हो गया ना है ना, इसीलिए अच्छा है.
In 2013, a Karnataka High Court ruling led to the issuance of an Indian passport to a Tibetan born in India. The ruling also paved the way for granting Indian citizenship to Tibetans born in the country between 1950 and 1987. In light of the ruling, the Election Commission issued a directive to enroll Tibetans born in the specified timeline in the electoral rolls. Meanwhile, local leaders are optimistic that the number of Tibetan voters will rise in the subsequent elections.
वोटर कार्ड बनाने की इच्छुक यहाँ पे सब है. अब थोड़ा सा जागरूक हो रहा है. अब इस इलेक्शन ना हो तो अगले इलेक्शन में जरूर तादाद ज़्यादा हो जाएंगे.
From foreign policy to infrastructure, a range of issues have taken the center stage for Tibetans, a community in which political awareness is on the rise. With camera person Mohit Joshi, this is Anu Kaushik reporting for DD India from Majnu Ka Tilla in New Delhi.
And still to come on DD India News Now. US accuses Russia of launching space weapon into orbit. Kremlin denies the claims. France's Macron visits New Caledonia to review the situation, says emergency imposed should not be prolonged. And second human case of bird flu diagnosed in Michigan dairy.
We are in Cannes, the famous city on the French Riviera. The 77th edition of the Cannes Film Festival is here. So soak into 12 days of world cinema and the hottest fashion trends. The famous 24 steps leading to the Palais des Festivals, where most of the cinema at this festival is screened, are beckoning. Join me, Munmun Bhattacharya, as I take you through all the buzz around the festival and on India's participation in it, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Now. Lipakshi Khuranan moving on. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi will be laid to rest on Thursday after funeral rites in his home city of Mashhad. Earlier, Iran's supreme leader led prayers in Tehran on Wednesday at the funeral of late President Ibrahim Raisi. Raisi's remains will be moved to South Khorasan province before being transferred to his home city in the northeast. Funeral rites for late president and others began on Tuesday in the city of Tabriz and the Shiite clerical center of Qom, where thousands of black-clad mourners attended ceremonies. 5 days of national mourning have been declared in the country. While leaders and officials from across the world also offered their condolences on Wednesday in Tehran for the death of President Ibrahim Raisi and his companions. Dignitaries from over 50 countries, including India, Russia and Saudi Arabia, visited Tehran to pay tribute to Ibrahim Raisi, Hossein Amir Abdelian and 7 other officials who were killed in a helicopter crash on May 19th. Tajikistan President Emomali Rahmon, Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani, Qatar's Emir Tamim bin Hamam Al Thani and Tunisian President Kais Saied also paid tributes to the late Iranian president in Tehran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu condemned Ireland, Spain and Norway's decision to recognize Palestinian statehood as a reward for terrorism following the October 7th attacks. In a video message, Netanyahu said rewarding terrorism will not bring peace and neither will it stop Israel from defeating Hamas.
The intention of several European countries to recognize a Palestinian state is a reward of terrorism. 80% of the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria support the terrible massacre of October 7. The evil cannot be given a state. This would be a terrorist state. It will try to repeat the massacre of October 7 again and again. We will not consent to this. Rewarding terrorism will not bring peace and neither will it stop us from defeating Hamas.
While condemning European nations' Palestinian state recognition, Israeli government spokesperson David Mensa said Israel will not remain silent in the face of those undermining its sovereignty and endangering its security.
Ireland, Norway and Spain are telling Hamas in a loud and clear voice that the October 7th massacre pays off. They are telling Palestinians that educating children to terrorism and refusing to accept a Jewish state pays off. There is no talk of bridge building, of coexistence, of bringing people together. No. These countries encourage and perpetuate war, more conflict, more bloodshed, not less. We send a clear and unequivocal message to their leaders. Israel will not remain silent in the face of those undermining our sovereignty and endangering our security.
Well, the United States National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that Israel's operation in the southern Gaza's Rafah has been targeted and limited, ensuring minimum harm to civilians. At a news briefing on Wednesday, Sullivan also added that humanitarian aid continued to flow into Gaza through the pier.
Briefed by Israeli officials and by Israeli professionals on refinements that Israel's made to its plans to achieve its military objectives while taking account of civilian harm. What we have seen so far in terms of Israel's military operations in that area has been more targeted and limited, has not involved major military operations into the heart of dense urban areas.
Well, U.S. President Joe Biden suggested that direct negotiations were the best way forward on Palestinian state and not through unilateral recognition. Acknowledging that each country could make its own decision on recognition of a Palestinian state, the White House stressed that President Biden believes that direct negotiations by the parties is the best approach. The comments came after Ireland, Spain and Norway said they will recognize a Palestinian state this month. And following the decision by 3 European countries to recognize Palestine as a state, the EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell said on Wednesday that he will relentlessly work to promote a common EU position on a two-state solution. Several European Union countries have in the past weeks indicated that they plan to make the recognition, arguing that a two-state solution is essential for lasting peace in the region. Palestine is already recognized by 8 European countries that are Bulgaria, Poland, Czech Republic, Romania, Slovakia, Hungary, Sweden and the Greek Cypriot administration. Well, moving on, Britain will go to polls in July after Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced a surprise early election. DD India's Oli Barrett reports for more from London.
Rishi Sunak firing that starting gun on the UK election campaign. Britain will vote on July the 4th. That is earlier than many analysts and experts and indeed MPs in Westminster behind me had been expecting. Most were pointing towards a possible vote in October or November of this year. So it is a gamble, it is a surprise, the date that Rishi Sunak has announced. Parliament behind me will be dissolved on May the 30th, and the party leaders and their supporters, their MPs, their campaigners will now crisscross the country trying to make their case to the British people. The opposition Labour Party is way ahead in the polls. It says it's time for change, and it blames a lot of the difficulties the UK has faced recently on the governing Conservatives. Rishi Sunak says it's time to stick to the plan. He says his plan is working when it comes to the economy, when it comes to difficult global affairs, when it comes to getting the NHS, the National Health Service, back on track with regards to waiting times and things like that. Migration is also expected to be a central issue in this election campaign as well. July the 4th, Britain goes to the polls, so 6 weeks or thereabouts for the major parties to make their case to the British people. Oli Barrett in London reporting for DD India.
Well, on Thursday, further primary elections will be held in the United States, with Idaho going to the polls and the Republican Party holding a convention in Texas to decide on key roles. Both will further indicate the support for current President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. DD India's Caroline Malone reports for more.
On Thursday evening in the US state of Idaho, the Democratic Party will be holding a presidential caucus. That's a state that's already held its presidential election primaries for the Democratic Party, but this is another chance to show what kind of support President Biden has and amongst the other candidates who are vying for the position. There are 6 other people who are on the ballot for this Democratic primary. Biden already has shored up enough support in the state, but it will be clear whether he has full support depending on how much people decide to put their votes in for these other candidates. In that state, they'll also be deciding which delegates get to attend the Democratic Convention in Idaho happening later this year. Whereas on Thursday in the state of Texas, the Republican Party will be holding one of its conventions. At that event, they'll be deciding on future positions, including the chair of the party for the state of Texas. In that election, it's a very tightly fought position, and it could influence how much overall support is given both to the likely presidential candidate for the Republicans, Donald Trump, and to other state positions, as well as to senators who are potentially being re-elected in the state later in the year. Overall, though, Trump has not been able to campaign at events because of the ongoing criminal cases against him, most particularly the hush money payments case that's happening and ongoing in the New York state. That could end, and there could be a conclusion as early as next week. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
Well, amidst the unrest in rioted New Caledonia, French President Emmanuel Macron is visiting the Pacific island on Thursday. While briefing media, Macron said that security forces would remain in New Caledonia as long as necessary, adding that the state of emergency imposed in the Pacific island should not be prolonged. Macron will be in the island for a day of talks, during which he will aim to turn the page on deadly riots triggered by contested electoral reform. Macron's agenda will include meeting local elected officials as well as business leaders. The protesters are demonstrating against an electoral reform that they fear will dilute the votes of indigenous Kanaks, who make up 40% of the island's population. And a Michigan dairy worker has been diagnosed with bird flu, making it the second human case associated with an outbreak in the U.S. dairy cows. The U.S. and Michigan health officials said on Wednesday that the worker came in contact with cows at a farm with infected animals and later experienced mild eye symptoms and has recovered. The officials further said that risk to the public remains low, but farm workers exposed to infected animals are at higher risk. And moving on, the United States has accused Russia of launching a satellite that can attack other satellites orbiting the Earth. The Kremlin has denied the claims and said Moscow is not developing any sort of counter-space weaponry. Nick Harper reports for more from New York.
Claims come from US Space Command, which on Tuesday said a recent Russian rocket launch was carried out with the aim of putting an anti-satellite probe into orbit. The US called it a counter-space weapon that was capable of attacking other satellites in low Earth orbit. However, Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister described the claims as fake news, adding that Moscow's space policy had not changed and that it remained opposed to the deployment of strike weapons in low Earth orbit. The latest incident, however, follows similar denials in February that Russia was developing a space-based anti-satellite nuclear weapon, a weapon that could inspect and disrupt high-grade satellites, with the potential to hit foreign governments' military communications. Here in New York at the United Nations, the two countries have clashed in recent weeks. The issue of space weapons has come up several times, with both Washington and Moscow accusing the other of trying to militarize space. Both countries appear engaged in ways to strengthen security surrounding their space activities, the US trying to work with allies to look at building alliances for the sharing and development of the next generation of space technology. The fear is that space could become the next frontier for warfare between superpower nations. Nick Harper in New York, reporting for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Donald Trump's lawyer fighting to stop former president from testifying in trial next week. Extreme weather engulfs India, whereas North India sizzles in high temperatures. South and East India are battered with rains. We'll tell you more about the extravagant 77th edition of Cannes Festival, as Thursday is a big day for India.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs. with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Campaigning for the sixth phase of India's general elections to rest today. Fate of 889 candidates contesting across 8 states and union territories to be locked on the 25th of May. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi to be laid to rest on Thursday, while leaders expressed their condolences. Israel condemns European nations' Palestinian state recognition. Netanyahu says the move would reward terror. US calls for two-state solution through direct talks. Facing voters for the first time as Prime Minister Rishi Sunak calls surprise UK election on 4th of July, vows to deliver a secure future. And climate change fueling a surge in extreme weather events across the planet. Heat waves pummeling across Asia, including North India, floods in Serbia and Brazil affecting lives. And moving on, a hearing in Donald Trump's classified document case devolved into a shouting match on Wednesday as lawyers fought over a threat allegedly made by a defense attorney. The judge had been meant to rule on a motion brought by the former president's co-defendant, Walt Nauta, on whether the prosecution against him had been discriminatory and vindictive. Kate Fisher reports for more from Washington.
Trump aide Walt Nauta argues that the case against him should be dismissed because others had also helped to move boxes of classified White House documents at the former president's Florida home, yet they were not charged. But the hearing was taken over by a dispute over an alleged threat made last year to Mr. Nauta's defense attorney. That lawyer claimed in court and in legal filings that a prosecutor had tried to pressure him into convincing Nauta to cooperate against Trump by threatening to affect a potential judgeship nomination. Unsealed court documents related to Wednesday's hearing reveal that former President Donald Trump still had classified documents in his bedroom at his Mar-a-Lago estate 4 months after an FBI search of his Florida home. Another court filing revealed that FBI agents approved the use of lethal force if necessary during the search. That's something the FBI says is just routine, but the former president criticised it in a social media post as a serious threat to democracy. Trump asked the judge to dismiss the case by calling the search unconstitutional. The former president is charged with taking classified national defense documents from the White House after he left office and of resisting the government's attempts to retrieve them. He and his co-defendants have pleaded not guilty. The Trump-appointed judge has indefinitely postponed the start of the trial because of the disputes that are still to be resolved. But her slow pace has been criticised by some as delay tactics to help the presumptive Republican presidential nominee. It's unlikely now that the trial will happen ahead of November's election, and if Trump wins, he's expected to get rid of the charges against him. In Washington, Kate Fisher reporting for DD India.
While US President Joe Biden hosted Kenyan President William Ruto for a state reception at the White House on Wednesday, Joe Biden and Kenyan President William discussed investment opportunities for various technological fields between the two countries. Biden is expected to designate Kenya as a major non-NATO ally during Ruto's 3-day state visit. Kenya would be the first sub-Saharan African country to receive the designation. Biden's move comes as Kenya is preparing to send forces to Haiti as part of a UN-led force deploying to address the security crisis in the Caribbean. And the city of Uvalde has reached a $2 million settlement with families of the victims of 2022 mass shooting at a public school in the Texas city. In one of the deadliest school shootings in U.S. history, 19 children and 2 teachers were killed on the 24th of May 2022. A U.S. Justice Department review found that local police had ignored accepted practices by failing to confront the gunman. The settlement involved the families of 17 of the children who were killed and 2 children who survived. Under the settlement, families agreed not to sue the city, but families would sue the state of Texas and the federal government. Families of the victims have called for criminal charges against officers involved in the stalled response. Uvalde District Attorney has launched a criminal investigation into the incident, and a grand jury was convened in January. And China on Thursday began 2 days of military drills around Taiwan. Chinese state media said that the Eastern Theater Command of the People's Liberation Army started the drills early on Thursday, adding that the drills are being conducted in the Taiwan Strait, the north, south and east of Taiwan, as well as areas around the islands of Kinmen, Matsu, Wukui and Dongyin. Military spokesperson Rishi said that the joint exercises involving the Army, Navy, Air Force and Rocket Force were a strong punishment for the separatist acts in Taiwan. He also added that the drills would serve as a stern warning against the interference and provocation by external forces. Taiwan's Defense Ministry has condemned the drills, saying that it had dispatched forces to areas around the island and was confident it could protect its territory. Well, U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration claims that more than 60% of world's coral reefs may have bleached in the past year. Marine experts said that the sea water exceeding 31 degrees Celsius is the main cause of coral bleaching and eventual death. Nearly 2/3 of the world's coral reefs have been subjected to heat stress worse enough to trigger bleaching over the past year. And Thursday is a big day for India, the 77th edition of Cannes Film Festival. On the 10th day of the festival, Indian director Payal Kabaria's All We Imagine Us Light is screening in the main competition section and is thus a contender for Palme d'Or given to the director of the best film. Indian cinematographer Santosh Sivan will give a masterclass on Cannes delegates on Thursday, a day before being honoured with the Pierre Angiox Award. This award is given every year at the festival as recognition of excellence in cinematography. The winner under the last CNF section of the festival will be announced on Thursday. In this section, FTTI student Chindananda Naik's short film Sunflowers Were the First Ones to Know is competing against 17 other films. And Buddha Purnima, the 2586th birth anniversary of Gautam Buddha, is being celebrated today. This day is celebrated across the world by Lord Buddha followers with great grandeur and enthusiasm. Lord Buddha also attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya on this auspicious day. The day also holds a great religious significance in Hindu religion. Devotees visit sacred sites such as Bodh Gaya in Bihar, where Buddha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree for prayers and meditation sessions led by monks. Also, Nepal celebrates Buddha Jayanti or Buddha Purnima in Lumbini, commemorating the birth of Lord Gautam Buddha. On the eve of this auspicious occasion on Wednesday, the Embassy of India in Nepal organized a cultural event. The centerpiece of this special event was a painting exhibition. A poignant rendition of bhajans were presented by celebrated Indian vocalists. During the event, Prime Minister of Nepal, Pushkamal Dahal, appreciated the Embassy of India and said that culture occupies a special place in India and Nepal's bilateral relationship, and such events strengthen the bond of friendship and harmony between the two countries.
In the context of Nepal-India relation, cultural dimension occupies a special place as it has closely bound our two peoples from the time immemorial. Our cultural heritage is not just a source of pride, it is a treasure trove of wisdom, values and tradition that enrich our lives and shape our identity.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A new multimedia exhibition opening in London explores the fusion between art and sound. On at the 180 Studios exhibition space in central London brings together more than 100 musicians and artists. Visitors can explore audiovisual installations by artists including Theaster, Gates and many more. Exhibit to run until 28th of September. Salutes of 80 soldiers were etched on sand of a beach in the town of Broadstairs ahead of the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings. Britain will mark the 80th anniversary of 1944 D-Day landings when 150,000 Allied soldiers invaded France to drive out the forces of Nazi Germany on the 6th of June. Family member of fighter remembered their loved ones who fought with the Sussex Regiment in Normandy. Cuban biochemist looks over a table swarming with silkworms. Hundreds of the cream-colored caterpillars squiggle across a bed of dark green mulberry to feed freshly plucked from plants just outside the laboratory. Artisans then use their silk to create homegrown products to sell to tourists and locals that benefit shopkeepers who owns a small shop in Havana. Archaeologists in Peru released a drone image of a geolith that could be between 1,000 to 1,500 years old. The figure is between 30 to 40 meters long on each side. Geolith is from the Mochica culture. Such historical victories are not uncommon in Peru. This geoglyph is a remarkable addition to Peru's rich tapestry of ancient artifacts. And still to come on DD India News Hour. In a thrilling match, RR end RCB's campaign with 4-wicket win in IPL eliminator. New York Fleet Week brings a wave of sailors for a week-long celebration.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. Lipakshi Kurana, and on to some weather updates now. A powerful tornado ripped through the Iowa town of Greenfield on Tuesday, killing several people, injuring at least a dozen, and destroying homes. The National Weather Service had issued tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm advisories for much of Iowa and several other Midwestern states. The Iowa Governor, Kim Reynolds, said that the state would provide its full resources to help the impacted areas recover and reassured residents that support was in place, working to provide shelter and restore power to thousands of residents. Reynolds declared a disaster emergency for 15 countries, including Adair and Adams, allowing state resources to be readily utilized in responding to the storm.
It's just horrific. It's hard to describe until you can actually see it, the devastation. And it's just, but at the same time, I can't begin to tell you just how heartwarming it is to see just everybody out there helping each other.
Also, strong winds, hail and flash floods caused havoc across Serbia, with one person killed when a tree toppled onto her car. Flash flooding inundated several neighbors in the southern Serbia, where authorities declared a state of emergency. Torrential rain coupled with hail and flash flooding was also reported in several other areas, including the capital, Belgrade. Hail damaged property and crops in the Kosovo town, Haniales. While stranded for nearly 3 weeks by record flooding in southern Brazil, the Ministry of Brazil estimates the disaster has affected 30,000 people in Rio Grande do Sul. Heavy rains have battered Rio Grande do Sul since late April, causing historic floods that have killed over 160 people. Indigenous communities resist government calls to evacuate from sacred ancestral lands. Meanwhile, Mexico continued to sizzle on Wednesday after the weather officials announced the start of the country's third heat wave on Monday. The third heat wave of the season would continue across most of Mexico, with temperatures above 45 degrees Celsius forecasted in 9 states of the country. Mexico faces severe nationwide drought that has led to a worsening water crisis across much of the country, making water a key issue in the June general elections. Also, Pakistan continued to sizzle after the weather authorities forecasted heatwave conditions across the country. The weather officials have predicted high temperatures throughout the week, followed by dust and thunderstorms over the weekend. Heatwave is expected to last for at least 10 days and has asked the public to take precautionary measures. Well, no signs of getting respite from the scorching heat. The Indian Meteorological Department has issued a red alert for several states in North India, including Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi and West Uttar Pradesh, as the region continues to experience severe heatwave conditions over the next few days. Meanwhile, a red alert has been issued in 5 districts of Kerala, predicting extremely heavy rainfall. The IMD also predicted heavy rainfall in isolated parts of Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and Karaikal on Thursday. Apart from these regions, the Weather Department also predicted heavy rainfall in Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura on Sunday. And for more, we have Tapas Bhattacharya joining us. Well, Tapas, good morning. IMD has issued red alert across North India for the next 5 days. North India is sizzling at 48 degrees. Can you tell us more on that?
Yes, absolutely. Good morning, Vilpakshi. It's very, very hot and humid morning. In fact, last couple of days, there was respite from the severe heat wave condition. The weather in Delhi NCR was much better. It was in the region of 40-42 degrees Celsius. But as per IMD, the situation is expected to change dramatically from today onwards. It was an orange alert for Delhi, but a red alert has been issued for Delhi for tomorrow and day after tomorrow. And there are 3 very pertinent points that the Met Department has has come up with. The first is the heat wave to severe heat wave conditions is most likely to continue over the plains of northwest India, and heat wave condition will be prevalent over let's say Madhya Pradesh and North Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat in the next 5 days. So that's one point. Yesterday, Barmer in Rajasthan recorded the highest temperature, 48 degrees Celsius, which is quite high. In fact, in terms of the normal temperature, it is the variation is over 6 degrees at least. Now, there are a couple of points, as I mentioned. The second point is that there is a Met Department has issued isolated to very heavy rainfall over South Peninsular India till 24th of this particular month, with especially with red alert warning for Kerala for today and tomorrow. Red alert has been issued in Kerala, and we expect the rainfall activity to pick up in Kerala and Mahe, and that's one of the reasons why the red alert has been issued. The third is that there is a low pressure area that has formed over southwest and Bay of Bengal, and which is expected to turn into depression, let's say by 24th of this month, of 24th of May, and expected to turn into a cyclonic circulation by 25th or 26th. So that's another thing that is happening. So you see the variation in weather pattern. You see at one point of place in down south, you have a very rainfall activity that is currently taking place, where the red alert has been issued for the same. And here in north part of the country, there is a red alert that is being issued for a heat wave, severe heat wave condition. So that's the kind of weather pattern right now we are.
All right, Tapas, can you tell us about these extreme weather conditions which you're also telling us about? Has IMD spoken anything about it?
Yes, they have. Though the heat wave conditions, as you know very well, that's a summer in India, and this is quite expected with with the heat wave condition, especially with the northwest part of the country. We are seeing the Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan and good parts of Gujarat and north of Madhya Pradesh is expected to bear the brunt of that. That's something that we have been told that they have made it very clear for the next 5 days. That's the situation is likely to remain the same. Now, for Kerala, we spoke to the IMD scientists and they believe that the heightened rainfall activity is because of the two reasons that I mentioned. Because we expect the monsoon to come very soon. By the end of the month, we are expecting the monsoon to reach India's southern peninsula. So that part is there, and there because there is the cyclonic circulation that I mentioned. There is a low pressure area that has formed in Bay of Bengal. That kind of also pulling the air current in nearby areas. So that's another reason why. So that's basically two reasons why the down south Kerala and Mahi is seeing such a heavy rainfall activity, and that's one reason why the red alert has been issued. So both monsoon, onset of monsoon, which is expected in a week time, and also as I mentioned, the cyclonic circulation that might form in the Bay of Bengal has led to this particular rainfall activity in Kerala.
All right, Tapas, thank you so much for that information from there. And on to some business news now. Several key Asian share benchmarks fell on Thursday as markets digested the implications of policymakers in major economies preferring to take patient approach to monetary easing amid sticky inflation. More hawkish than expected minutes of the Federal Reserve's latest policy meeting, a hot UK inflation print and a sobering assessment of New Zealand's inflation problems from the country's central bank have caused investors to pair their bets of the pace and scale of global rate cuts expected this year. Data on Wednesday showed inflation in Britain eased less than expected and a key core measure of prices barely dropped, prompting investors to pull bets on the Bank of England's rate cut next month. Well, you're watching DD India News and time now for some sports news. Rajasthan Royals ended Royal Challengers Bengaluru's eventful campaign in the Indian Premier League with a 4-wicket win in the eliminator in Ahmedabad on Wednesday. Sent into bat, Royal Challengers Bengaluru scored 172 for 8. In reply, Rajasthan Royals chased down the target of 173 with 6 balls to spare. 2008 winners Royals will face Sunrisers Hyderabad in Chennai on Friday for a place in the IPL final to be played on Sunday. And a stunning under-bowler Lukman hat-trick handed Atalanta the Europa League title on Wednesday, just the second major trophy in their 117-year history. After a 3-0 win over Bayer Leverkusen that ended the German champions' remarkable unbeaten streak. After this treble, the former England under-21 winger, who now represents Nigeria at international level, has nettled 15 goals in each of his 2 seasons with Atlanta. The London-born Nigeria winger became only the 6th player to score a hat-trick in the European final, the first since Jupp Heynckes for Borussia Mönchengladbach in the 1975 UEFA Cup, with all 3 goals in the Italian side's win over Bayer Leverkusen in Dublin. And the French Open starts next week, and the men's single draw is set to feature Rafael Nadal for one final time. With 14 championships to his name, the clay courts in Paris have been a happy hunting ground for the 37-year-old Spaniard, who says he expects to retire after the 2024 season. DD India's correspondent Ross Cullen reports for more.
Well, the question on everybody's lips in terms of the men's draw here in Paris will be, can Rafael Nadal win a 15th men's singles title? Unprecedented numbers. He's already won 14 Roland Garroses since back in 2005, his first title when he was a teenager, looking to see if he can win and finalise his career here in Paris with another title. It would take him to 23 Grand Slams in total, still trying to chase down Novak Djokovic, who's on 24. Maybe the two of them will meet at some point in the final. That will be the question. Also, though, the man who is tipped to replace Rafael Nadal as the most exciting, the highest ranked Spaniard on tour tour. Carlos Alcaraz will be worth watching to see if he's able to make progress. Yannick Sinner potentially impacted by injury, though. In terms of the women's draw, hard to look past Iga Swiatek, the world number one. The women's title winner here in 2022. In 2023, can she win a third on the spin? Can she win her fourth French Open title? But the story really will be Rafael Nadal. Can he round off his career with another win that would take him to 15 French Open titles? And the action begins this coming Sunday on the 26th of May. Ross Cullen in Paris, reporting for DD India.
Well, New York gears up to celebrate the 36th Fleet Week. The week signifies a week-long celebration in New York City celebrating maritime services. Offers to meet members of the U.S. Navy, U.S. Marine Corps and the U.S. Coast Guard, as well as opportunities to step aboard and tour the warships. About 2,300 sailors, mariners and members of the Coast Guard are expected to participate in this event. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.